Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to something totally different. Today I just kind of felt like rambling about something that's been on my mind for a little bit. I did ask you guys whether or not you'd be more interested in news videos, like news roundups, or just random sort of strings of consciousness, and you guys said you wanted more just sort of random videos, so here we are. So recently I made a tweet in regards to this chain going around saying anime opinions that will have you like this, and it's that shot of Flynn from Rapunzel with all the swords pointed at him. And I said SAO has far more good elements than bad. A bunch of folks only hate it because MB and Digi told them to. Now, I will get into my thoughts on Mother's Basement and Digi later. Instead, I just want to focus on the SAO of it all. I want to have a discussion about whether or not I genuinely believe SAO is far more good than bad. And so I pretty much just threw together some bullet point lists on what I think is good and bad about SAO and some questions people might have. So the first one being, is SAO bad? Absolutely not. I think the idea that people think that SAO is just straight up bad is definitely misinformed. However, is SAO perfect? Again, absolutely not. There is a lot about SAO that there is to criticize, in the same way there's a lot about most big shows that you can criticize. I think a huge issue with SAO is the fact that it became as popular as it did. Which does lead us nicely into the other question. What about SAO makes it dislikable? I'd say the biggest thing about SAO that makes it dislikable is the fact that it's so dang popular. SAO was one of the biggest anime that had come out in that era, and of course that led to so many people talking about it. I remember my ex and I watching that show in a single sitting. Like, we sat down, we watched, well, not the entirety, we watched all of Aincrad and the first episode of Fairy Dance, and I'll get to Fairy Dance. Oh, believe me, I will get to Fairy Dance. But we sat down, we watched every episode of Aincrad together, and it was immensely enjoyable. And I don't binge watch things. Like, that's not something I enjoy. I do it now on Twitch, but that's not something I do on my free time. That's not fun to me. I feel like I'm missing out on large portions of the story by doing that. But with SAO, I genuinely felt compelled to finish all of Aincrad because I thought it was so interesting, this sort of battle royale and this like fantasy RPG game, like where it's literally, it's like the Matrix where you die in the game, you die for real. You know, like that's just kind of fun. And the characters and that relationship between Kirito and Asuna really held it together for me. However, it held it together for a lot of people, like a lot of people. And the instant something gets popular, that's when people want to dunk on it. You'll notice that the instant My Hero hit like season 2, that's when the show got stupid popular, and it still is very popular, and people will take every opportunity to dunk on My Hero. I almost want to make a video like this on My Hero and talk about the potential bads about My Hero in the same way that there's potential bads with SAO. Because there is things to criticize about My Hero, but is it the worst thing ever, like some people are making it out to be? Absolutely not. Is SAO the worst thing ever? No. I really don't understand where a lot of that is coming from. Again, it really just seems like its biggest sin was being popular. However, again, there is legitimate concerns. The slapdash writing in the early half is definitely a concern. Reki Kawahara, I love Reki. I've made that very known, but I've also made it known in my own previous videos on SAO that it's not like Reki's a saint, right? Reki did have moments of weak writing in the early portions of SAO. Now, keep in mind, I'm anime only, right? So I don't know the light novel details. I have been told a lot of light novel stuff from light novel fans because I'm one of the few people who apparently will listen to light novel fans. Because again, like, I enjoy the show, and I've noticed a lot of other AniTubers tend to hate on this show, and a lot of them have come around, and I'm so happy they have. I know a lot of people who genuinely enjoy the show now, and I think that's great. And I think the fact that people are starting to listen to light novel fans when they say that A1 is making it, is usually the one making these things that you don't like, However, even light novel fans have told me that, yeah, a lot of the writing decisions during like the fairy dance arc or the more messy parts of Aincrad, that is all Reki. And that's fair, you know. He had, I believe, written Excel World prior or afterwards, I don't remember, or like during. So he had experience writing, but this was like his first big project with a lot of eyes on it. So a lot of his bigger flaws are still very clear and evident in Aincrad, and especially Fairy Dance. And it is very evident that he is still struggling to find his voice. He truly finds his voice by the time we get to like Mother's Rosario, sort of GGO, like it's sort of there in GGO. Excalibur is an absolutely worthless arc. Totally, you can literally skip it. Does nothing. And then Mother's Rosario is one of the finest crafted anything I've seen. It, like, Mother's Rosario is so dope. And then Alicization hits with the power of 1,000 trucks. It is the Feels train, and it hits hard. And Reki truly finds his voice by the time you get to Mother's Rosario and Alicization. And I do hear that everything after Alicization in terms of the light novels is also really dope. And I'm excited to finally see that animated. But yeah, it's totally fair to say that there is some slapdash writing in the beginning that it's relatively weaker. I don't fault that opinion at all. The biggest issue, I think, and this is one that I absolutely have with the show, and I know a lot of people do, and that's the gratuitous sexual violence in the show. That is a problem. And it's, to me, that's a sign of Reki's more weaker writing in the moments where it's sort of unnecessary to have, like, Asuna be essentially, like, tortured physically the way that she is, you know what I mean? If she was being, like, you know, tortured in the way that, like, I assume King Oberyn would torture Kirito, then, like, fine, whatever. But the fact that it's made really sexual and A1 really focuses on the gratuitousness of it, it's very unnecessary. I don't really like it at all. I think it's really disgusting. And the funny thing is, every SAO fan that I speak to also hates that. Like, literally every SAO fan I've spoken to has either been like, I don't like it, but whatever, or I really hate that. Like, it's one of the two. It's not, oh yeah, that does it for me. And I'm sure that those people exist in the same way that those people probably really enjoyed Redo of Healer, yes, scumbags. But, yeah, no, that doesn't do it for most people. It's unnecessary, it's gratuitous, and I think most people are aware that that's a problem, and you see it less and less as the show goes on. It's still evident in the scene with, say, like, later on in Alicization, where there's like this, you know what, I don't want to say names actually, so I'm not going to say anything, but there's a scene in Alicization where something like that comes up, and it's made as this sort of moment to sort of show some world building, believe it or not, but it does sort of come across as unnecessary. The only difference is it's less sexualized, I guess I'll say. As the show goes on, I think A1 realizes, like, yeah, maybe don't do that. And maybe don't always have, like, crazy, sex-crazed villain guy, you know, like, that's not necessary. You don't have to keep doing that. And I think Reki does learn that as he goes. He does slip into that sometimes, and I hate it, but he's aware, and he makes it less and less as the show goes on, and I have to give him credit. Unlike, I think, most people, I think it's important to show when a creator is actually improving and give them credit. I already appreciated Reki's writing in the beginning of SAO, and I only feel like he's gotten better and better. Another criticism of SAO that I hear quite often is that Kirito and the cast are boring. I couldn't disagree more, especially as the show goes on, but I can see the biggest issue being the secondary characters get little to do or forgotten completely. Shoutouts to my boy Recon from Fairy Dance. That dude gets completely forgotten about. And Suguha in general also gets pretty much sidelined and is mostly a totally just dumb character. Like Suguha doesn't get a lot to do. So I can respect that, like, yeah, the secondary characters don't get a lot. I can think of a million shows where that's the problem. Again, a lot of the issues that this show has that people point to are things that I feel like you can make the same criticism about other shows, but I never hear criticism about those other shows because they're not SAO. You know what I mean? Because they're not huge and popular, and because AniTubers can't use that to milk views, people don't really talk about it. So I just find that a little bit ironic. And what I also find ironic is the comment that Kirito is this sort of cardboard cutout, because it's true at the beginning of the series that he is this sort of like just power trip fantasy, but one of the best parts about SAO is everything starting from arguably Mother Cesario, kind of, especially Ordinal Scale, and then all through Alicization, watching Kirito grow as a character. And this leads us nicely into what makes SAO as enjoyable as it is. Like, what is it about SAO that I enjoy so much? And since I've already mentioned it, Kirito's arc, starting like specifically with the Ordinal Scale, but his use in Mother Cesario is super telling as to where the character is going to go as well. Kirito as a character is one that has always grown to be this type of dude who fights for his friends, right? Like, I fight for my friends, right? He's Ike. However, he is definitely a big power trip fantasy. Like, his design is very much like meant to sort of invoke like this typical like somebody who would read SAO, right? Just black-haired character, sort of like a nerdy type of guy. The dudes who would be reading SAO can see themselves in Kirito, right? I've always thought that was like the intention, but as SAO goes on, Kirito actually becomes like a character with like pathos and development, and we see that especially in Ordinal Scale. And man, I really want to rewatch that movie because it's super good. But Kirito is suddenly faced with the fact that he's not strong in reality. When we get this AR game, right? And again, I'm not going to spoil too much of the story, but we get this AR game. Kirito can't rely on the same skills and abilities he had in SAO, since SAO was a friggin' game. AR is like augmented reality, so Kirito can't do the crazy stuff that he used to do, and suddenly he's not quite as strong. We see this again in Alicization, where Kirito is suddenly put in this position where he doesn't have the same powers and abilities that he has. He has to rely on his actual skills that he got from both Ordinal Scale and his time doing Kendo. So we actually see that, and we see him like have to start from that base and then meet people, learn new skills, grow and develop, and his dynamic with Yu-Gi-Oh really pushing him in that direction. I'm telling you, Alicization is some seriously cool shit. And his relationship with Yu-Gi-Oh in particular is just beautiful. He gets like a sort of brother type character, and they really push each other into becoming better in so many different ways. And it's his relationship with Yu-Gi-Oh, I think, that makes out the first half of Alicization so strong, and then introducing Alice as like a proper character, like the main focus from War of Underworld onwards, the second half of Alicization. It's genuinely some like really strong writing, and again, it just shows to me that Kirito has grown as a character and Reki has grown as a writer, and I do think it's interesting that those two parallel. Other big enjoyable moments from SAO is the action scenes are genuinely top-notch. I can't think of too many other series that get me as hyped when shit goes down in the way that SAO does. The fights are super good, absolutely dope. I love the animation, I love the choreography, I love the music. Oh my god, the soundtrack to the show is absolutely outstanding, but you already knew that. Even people who dislike SAO seem to agree that the soundtrack is super dope. Direction is bombastic and entertaining. That's like completely throughout the duration of Tomohiko Ito's run on the show, because Ito does leave after, I believe, Ordinal Scale. And then during Manabu Ono's run, it's a lot more dramatic and thoughtful during Alicization. It's still the same action, but it's not as like over the top, crazy, bombastic. It's like, it still can be that under Ono's direction, but it's also more sort of thoughtful and slow and methodical, and like the way that Alicization feels, it's still our characters from SAO, it's still that same world, but it's very like, you're seeing it from this slower, more thoughtful perspective, and I really loved that. I loved how these two different directors brought interesting dynamics and ways of showing the story, and it still felt like the same cohesive world, because I know like sometimes when a director leaves, the whole show can feel different, right? But with Alicization versus the rest of Sao, it still felt like one cohesive narrative, and I really, really dug that. Also, you have an absolutely stellar voice cast, from Yoshitsugu Matsuoka voicing Kirito, Haruka Tomatsu voicing Asuna, Aoi Yuki, who I think is like absolutely brilliant, voicing Yuki. And that's not even getting into Alicization, which has like an absolutely holy crap stellar cast. You get Nobunaga Shimizaki as Yu-Gi-Oh! Sorry, brain fart. As Yu-Gi-Oh! You get friggin' Junichi Suwabe as Berkuli, Ai Kayano as Alice. Akira Ishida voices the most insane villain in all of SAO in the form of Gabriel Miller, who's just a lunatic, and I love him in the sense that he's absolutely batshit evil in the most fun way. And that's another thing too, like the villains of this show unfortunately do fall into that trap. Again, I said that earlier, that Reki has like some issues writing villains because he just sort of makes them creepy sex crazed people. But like then you get to Alicization and you get Gabriel Miller and Visago, and they're so entertaining and how batshit crazy evil they are, and it's just fun. And the world itself is just super fascinating. So fascinating, in fact, that Gun Gale Online got its own spin-off from the writer behind Kino's Journey, Keiichi Shigusawa. It's genuinely this really interesting world. I want to see more of it. I want to see what happens down the line. I want to see what happens with Kirito and Asuna and Alice and all of that. I want to see where things go, especially with the friggin' cliffhanger they leave us on in Alicization, where they say like there's something huge coming, like this was only the beginning, and it's like, oh no, what's gonna happen? It's genuinely such a fun series, and I don't think that that's a bad thing. I think it's okay to have fun. I feel like a lot of people think like, no, my anime must be dark and brooding. My anime must be like the Batman. And it's like, no, you can have anime that's just fun. Your anime can be the Flash. It's not a bad thing. Like, you can have fun. And you can have fun while still being interesting. Like, SAO does not be fun at the sacrifice of having interesting character moments. There's a lot of stuff in Alicization like that is heavy and deep. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is one of the most fascinating characters in the whole show. Yuki and everything in Mother's Rosario hits so hard because the writing is that good. The writing improves drastically, and even at the beginning, it's still fun and enjoyable. And I don't think that that's a bad thing. And I'm really sick of pretending like it is. And I'm really sick of a lot of other people acting that way just because they feel like that's the thing they have to do to fit in. You can like shows that other people don't like. That's okay. And I'm saying that to segue into one of the final questions I'm going to say in this video. Do I really think a bunch of folks only hate it because MB and Digi told them to? Yeah, I do. Obviously not everybody, but yeah, a lot of people watched the Mother's Basement videos and they watched the Digi videos and they assumed, and that's only two. Those are like the two that I see the most when people talk about, I don't like SAO because blah, 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 and they parrot, like literally parrot lines of these videos. I know this because I watched those videos back in the day. I know when you're parroting Mother's Basement, and I know when you're parroting Digi. I know this. A lot of people know this. You can actually, believe it or not, form your own opinions on a show by just watching the show. You don't have to listen to AniTubers. AniTubers don't know what they're talking about. They only know like what they're experiencing. They're not like the czars of anime, and they never should be. You think I am trying to speak in any way on behalf of like all of the anime community? Bro, I'm a Fidanchi who likes hype action stuff, and I don't really care about most like dramatic plots, right? When it came to like, watch my Attack on Titan videos and really understand that I don't speak on behalf of the anime community. I speak for myself. And I feel like that was an issue I got from Mother's Basement's older videos, because Jeff has totally improved. But back in that day, Jeff was very cocky and acted as though everything he said was correct. And a big thing is, I don't fault them at all. Like, Jeff and Digi saw gold in them hills, and they went full Durin's folk on that lonely mountain. And I don't blame them at all. Go get your bag. I'm not faulting you. 100%. They saw an opportunity to get a lot of views, make a lot of cash, and they took it. I do wish that they didn't beat the horse till it was literally paced, but that is what happened. Do I blame them? Absolutely not. When I say that I think a lot of people only hate it because Digi and MB told them to, I mean they really were just parroting them. That's not a fault on Jeff or Digi, that's on the people who are just accepting their opinion as their own. You should always form your own opinion. You can watch videos like mine, you can watch videos like Jeff's, you can watch whoever, and enjoy that opinion and like hearing the other side of things, but always at least try to go enjoy or like even hate that thing yourself, you know? I don't care if you tell me you didn't like SAO, like say you watched like the first episode and you hated it. I would still listen and respect your opinion more because you at least went and saw bare minimum the first episode. You know what I mean? As opposed to you saying, I don't like it because blah, 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 blah. Oh, you saw it? No, I just watched videos on it. Well, then that's not an opinion. It's an absolutely worthless take. Like, no offense. I'm being just really real with you here. That's not an opinion. That's somebody else's opinion. You know what I mean? That's just kind of where I stand. So, in conclusion, give SAO a try. Or don't. I don't really care. Like, you don't have to. I would prefer if you did. But if you're going to try to talk on a subject, take SAO out of it. You're going to try to talk about any show, bare minimum watch the first episode. Bare minimum, you know? Otherwise, just state at the beginning, hey, I haven't seen it, but this is my take, right? Like, if you haven't seen it and you've just seen other people's videos on it, at least make that clear. You know what I mean? Because I'm really sick of people just assuming that the show is bad because insert big tuber here says it's bad. As a member of the Fujoshi/Fudanshi community, the boys love genre and the girls love genre, holy crap, I am so sick of hearing this genre bad because Big Tuber said it. As an SAO fan, I am so sick of hearing this show bad because Big Tuber said it. However, my final thing, SAO fans, I got your back, right? You guys have always been good to me. I will be good to you back. However, let's not go attacking other people just because they don't like SAO. That is a thing, right? Like, I don't want to attack people. I'm just stating that I don't really vibe with that opinion, right? They are allowed to have that opinion. Even if you want to parrot other channels, you're allowed to do that. I think it's kind of crappy, but you do you, boo-boo. Like, I'm not trying to tell you what to do and how to behave. I'm just saying, maybe don't do that. I guess I kind of am telling you. But I'm not expecting you to actually do that. What I'm saying is, I don't vibe with it. I'd probably just not speak with you. I wouldn't want to interact with anybody like that. And I know a lot of people who wouldn't. But also, if you're an SAO fan and you're downright attacking other people because they don't like SAO, I don't want to interact with you either. SAO fans, let's not be Eden Zero fans, okay? Let's just be good, respect that. Some people aren't going to like SAO. Again, there's, as I said, there's things to dislike about it. Plenty. But there's also so much good, and we should be focusing on the good, right? So if you want to get people into SAO, don't attack, just talk about the good. Maybe tell them to ditch Fairy Dance if you can. But with that said, that is going to wrap up today's video here. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to boop that up snoot. Share if you care, leave a comment down below. And of course, make sure that you hit that subscribe button, ring that bell, set notifications to all. Let all of AniTube know that you're here. And of course, before we go, as always, I want to give a big thank you to the good folks in the T Squadron. Look at these beautiful people. Look at all these beautiful names. And hey, if you would like to join these beautiful people, there are 2 ways to do so. The first is by hitting that join button right beside the sub button. That gets you a badge next to your name, some emotes to spam in the comments, and of course your name scrolling past the screen here. Or you could check out that Patreon link in the description. Either way, it is super appreciated. So once again, a big thank you to the good folks in the T Squadron. And yes, that is indeed it for me. Not sure how this video is going to look. I think I recorded this all in one take, so good for me. I think I might just have this be full podcast. Just full podcast. You don't really got to pay attention to what's going on the screen. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to keep doing totally random bonus videos, but this was fun. Anyway, bye!